I feel that right now, in our changing times, the world really needs someone to show people how they can be the best version of themselves and serve the
Mhm.
world greatly. Right? Well, my name is JH Tapley. I am a soul purpose mentor, essentially a spiritual mentor for male entrepreneurs, especially
Okay.
for the younger generation, who seems pretty lost in our times. And so I've been doing my work for about 25 years now. So I've been around for a while. I'm the author of 12 books on personal development. And I absolutely love what I do because I feel that right now, in our changing times, the
Mhm.
world really needs someone to show people how they can be the best version of themselves and serve the
Mhm.
world greatly.
Yeah. Well, and I love that title of soul purpose mentor and kind of the spiritual journey. A lot of times in our cultures, there's this, kind of separation of your spiritual health, and that's personal, and don't talk about
So
it, and
true.
don't proselytize. And
Yes.
so I love that you are really starting with that. Tell me a little bit more about the spiritual journey that you have personally gone on to get to that point of wanting to help other people on that journey.
I feel that right now, in our changing times, the
Mhm.
world really needs someone to show people how they can be the best version of themselves and serve the
Mhm.
world greatly. All right. So I loved what you said in one of the episodes that what we really value as society is someone with a strong mind, but nobody teaches people how to have a strong mind.
Right.
So I wasn't actually taught specifically in this lifetime, but my advantage was that I suppose I was lucky in a way because I remember my previous lives where I did get this kind of a training. And so because I haven't forgotten, I could just use what I've learned this time, which was quite handy.
Hmm.
And so in this lifetime, I just picked up where I left off pretty much.
Hmm. So when you say that you have 25 years of experience, are you talking about in previous lives as well? You look
No,
awfully young. So I'm a little confused about the 25 years of experience.
oh, how old do you think I am?
I you look very young. So, oh,
I'm
okay.
43 years old now.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I would guess in your 20s.
I use a special meditation that does that because for me, my look is part of my work and part of my message to the world. So
Mm.
it's part of my integrity as a person. And because of that, I designed it this way. And I know people get very surprised. But yes, I'm heading towards my mid 40s right now.
Okay.
So I'm not as young as many people believe. But because our body hears everything that our mind says, you know how people can make themselves ill just by
Mhm.
thinking about
Yep.
bad things and having that bad energy. So we can use the same mechanism, the same power in our mind to actually slow down aging and undo the damage that negative environment, negative
Mhm.
emotions, and negative lifestyle even goes to us.
Is this a specific meditation from someone else or something you developed?
It's something I've developed or I've
So
perfected.
yeah, tell us a little bit about this meditation practice. What do you call it? Where do you teach it?
It's just a rejuvenation practice. So I have students around the world. I work
Mhm.
online and I can teach you right now. It's very simple and it's a form of meditation, but it works for people who have no idea how to meditate whatsoever.
Okay.
So all you need is to first start with a warm up, just like a physical workout. We need to start with a warm up to have our body ready. So for this, we need to start with a warm up to have our mind ready. And I'm
Okay.
going to send you a link to the whole routine.
Okay.
Essentially, it has to do with slowing down your brain waves, and it's super easy and super pleasurable. And by the way, if anyone wants it, just reach out to me on Instagram, say Strong Mind. I'm going to send it to you.
Okay.
So this
And we'll
warm
put
up
that
routine,
we'll put that information down in the description so that the viewers can easily click on that.
sure, thank you. So and it's super easy and it's super enjoyable. So you do the warm up, and then after that, um, choose the time when you say resting. I usually do it just before falling asleep.
Okay.
So I'm already in my bed, my eyes are
Mhm.
closed. I relax my body through the warm up routine. Now I imagine or visualize that my body is disintegrating into energy dust. So it just become an energy cloud, shapeless. Now, from that point, I imagine myself in the best possible form, mentally, spiritually, physically, exactly the way I want to see it. And also, how would it feel like once I'm there? So get
Mm.
the visuals in your mind, but also get the feeling, which is really important. So it's not like, oh yeah, yeah, sure. You know, some people's inner critic goes, yeah, as if, yeah, I keep dreaming, or something like that. So disregard that. If that appears, just acknowledge it, but say, okay, I'm busy right now. I'm done interview. And imagine what it would feel like fully in your body to have this body you desire. And it works for anything. It works for healing, it works for slimming, it works for Arnold Schwarzenegger actually used that. And he admitted he used a similar technique to grow his muscles bigger and faster. So relax your body. Imagine you're an energy cloud. Imagine that you are the perfect version of yourself. Imagine the feeling. Now, from that shapeless energy cloud, start building that perfect body right in your mind. So as you're lying down, imagine that shapeless energy is forming into the exact form that you want to
Mhm.
be, and then drift to sleep. Nothing.
Okay. I've done some similar things, probably not consistently, uh, and you've been consistently doing that for how long?
Oh, let me think. Probably from my teenage years, because as I said, I didn't have, because of the memories that I had, I didn't have the actual chance to develop a personality the way that other people would have in terms of I've never been a child or I've never been a teenager. So my thinking was consistent. The way I think right now and the way I talk right now is the way I thought and talked back then. So I realized,
Would you describe yourself as um, special, having a gift? Like you said, you were never a child. You've always known that or had memories of past lives. When did you realize that, and how do you describe that?
when I realized that, I think I might have been about 6 years old, seven,
Okay.
something like that. And I distinctly remember one scene where I was looking at other children around me, thinking, wow, it's going to take them maybe another 20 years to understand what I wanted to say.
Oh.
And I remember I felt so lonely at that time because I thought, wow, 20 years is a long time. So
Hmm.
I mostly talked to adults back then because there wasn't anything in common between me and other kids. And I was reading science books and astronomy books mostly. So again, no
Yeah.
really
When
talk to
did you write
students.
your first book?
Uh, about 14 years ago.
Okay. And how old were you? I could do the math, but so you were 20 in your late 20s.
Either late 20s or
Yeah.
early 30s, something like that, yes. I used to write before that, like short articles. And what happened at one point, my students kept asking me the same questions or the same kind of questions. And I thought, well, if I just write down all those answers in a one concise format, it's going to be so much easier. And then that small concise format became my first book, and then another book and another book. So essentially, I started writing books for my students.
Mm. Tell us a little bit about your writing, how it has evolved, and kind of the intent that readers, should go into with your books.
Well, my books are very practical, all of them, even the novel books, the fantasy stroke science fiction books. People compare them to The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho in that you have this fantasy setting, you have adventures, you fly dragons and meet goddesses and all of that. But really, at the background of that story, you learn a lot about yourself, about how your mind works, about how you can be more effective and efficient and strong minded in this world. But other books I have are more straightforward, more like textbooks in a way, or manuals for the mind, where you open them, you have, say, there is something specific you want to learn about your mind. And so you pick up the book and start reading, and it explains things in a very simple language with examples that you can relate to, and you can learn the techniques that you can put into practice straight away. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the fun of it.
Yeah. Well, give us some examples.
Well, it depends what you want to learn, but my latest
What do
book,
you
it,
have to practice most often? Like, what do you struggle with? Or, what are some techniques that you have to often do for yourself?
my favorite one is called connecting with the God state, because connecting with the God state is a big part of what I teach in my work. Because my philosophy is that as humans, we cannot really reach our truest, highest potential and live our true purpose unless we discover that divinity within.
Mm,
And so everyone can do it, but different people need different approaches. It's a little bit like climbing a wall. And so different people need ladders of a different size, but they all can do it. And this is the most important thing that we
mm,
can do as humans, not just for ourselves, but for the world as well. Because if we unlock that highest divine potential
mm.
in us, and it's not, I know it sounds maybe a bit abstract, a bit like, oh yeah, well, it's out there. I don't really need it. But the reality is that we really do need it, because if we become, well, the gamers will understand me, playing in the God mode gives you incredible powers. It gives you the power to bend reality, to heal yourself emotionally and physically as well, to manifest things. And it creates a much smoother sailing in many respects. It doesn't mean that nothing never happens, but you
Right.
are a lot more equipped to deal with it. So
Yeah.
you're in a really powerful state. So my latest book, The Superhero's Journey, let's see if I can show
Yeah.
it
Tell us about that.
here. Yeah, so the Superhero's Journey book is the book about a guy, a young business owner, who was looking for his purpose, and he found a very strange and uncommon mentor to lead him to that purpose. And this book describes his adventures and how he reaches his destination, or at least some of it. I
Yeah.
encourage everyone to check it out for themselves.
Uh-huh.
Essentially, it's based on the concept of the hero's journey by Joseph Campbell. And
Hmm.
so the hero's journey is the journey of inner transformation. And this is what we all do in this lifetime. We are all those lost heroes on the quest, because we all go through those stages. The main one being the refusal of the call, because when some strange creature, I mean, we don't really have Yoda turning on our doorstep, but we often do have things that shake us up. Some
Mm.
trauma, some dramatic
Yeah.
experience,
And a
loss,
lot of my
grief.
listeners, let's stop and kind of dive in here, because most of my listeners are people with, extreme grief, trauma, or helping someone in those kinds of spaces.
Yes,
And I think that in our culture, and I don't know if it's the same in Europe, there's this dependency mentality around mental health. Like, I have depression, I have anxiety, and I have PTSD. And then they go to a professional to fix that problem. And, part of my teaching, and it goes along with what you're saying, is that, we've known forever that we are physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual beings.
spiritual. Yeah,
But because of where we are in our cultural history, there's this separation between mental, emotional health and spiritual health.
yes,
And I love that you are, teaching that spiritual health. But let's talk about why that's so important in mental health.
absolutely. I think a lot of people would get really empowered if they shifted their perspective to understand that a really traumatic experience like grief, loss, any kind of tragedy is really their call to adventure. It's their call to wake up from the life they've been living so far. And
Mm,
the reason for that, only the highest consciousness knows why certain people need to experience certain things and why certain things are sent to certain people. But at the bottom of it, and for someone like me who struggled with severe depression for many years, I,
mhm.
I've been in this place, so I know what I'm talking
Okay.
about. And so, really intense depression, really intense trauma is your call to adventure. It means that the universe is calling you to become a greater version of you because the world needs your service. So if you get stuck in that dark place,
Mm,
you are actually not just diminishing your own life, but you also are not giving other people the opportunity to flourish because inside you, there is a gift, something so important that the universe tried its hardest to
mm,
break your shell and get it out of you because we
mhm,
have those protective egos that don't let us grow. And so one of the most powerful ways to tackle the ego and to shake its dominance is to put us through something really traumatic because then it tends to wake us up. It tends to make us stop and think, why
mhm,
is that? What is happening? Why is this happening to me? But
mhm,
the biggest answer behind that is that you are called for something greater. This is your call to adventure. Say
mhm.
yes to it because the universe needs you. The world needs you.
So, talk to us about, when you were in that depressive state and the process of that realization, because I think for me, I've always been a fighter. And so I'm just like, I won't submit to that space. But when I'm trying to help other people, that depression is so hard to get out of. I mean, you could say those things to them, but if they can't find it within themselves, they're not going to be able to do anything with it. So tell us how you were able to find that within yourself and how maybe you empower other people to do that.
Yes. So people get depressed when they don't see the path ahead, aka they don't have a true big purpose in life. Because
Mhm,
if you have a huge big why to live for, you don't get depressed because the power of that purpose is pulling you forward with such a force that you can't really stop and get depressed. You just don't have even the mental room for it. So
mhm,
if someone is depressed, usually it's a war within it. I call it a mental inflammation of sorts, where their conscious mind, their ego
yep.
mind, the stubborn part, and their soul mind, their inner part, are at odds with each other. And
Mm,
so the soul wants to lead their purpose. The soul always wants to follow his or her purpose. But the mind can look at all the blame that our society throws at us and goes, no, 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 we must not do this because, look, this is more prestigious. This pays well. This is going to make you famous. But our soul doesn't care whether we're famous. Our
mm,
fulfillment does not depend on how much we've got in the bank. And this is why some billionaires can be really miserable and some poorer people can be really happy. And I'm not saying that everyone should avoid making money. It's not about it. It's just about being true to yourself. So if making a lot of money is aligned with your soul path, by all means go there. But don't follow someone who seems fulfilled in that role because it's their role. So you can imagine it as the universe having millions of doors, with millions of locks on them. And
mhm,
each of them has a unique shape. Now,
mhm,
each of us, human beings, has like a unique key, a unique shape of our soul that
mhm,
can unlock that specific door that is meant for us. And that specific door will make you unstoppable, will help you enter that God mode where you're just literally indestructible,
mhm,
mentally at least, and emotionally, because you're so strong within yourself that whatever comes at you, it just bounces off.
mhm,
But most people simply don't have either the courage or the knowledge to go and look for that door. So they try to unlock all those different other people's doors, and of course the
mhm,
key doesn't fit because it's
mhm,
got a unique combination. And then they get really depressed because they stop seeing the path ahead. And so in my practice, what I do, I help them understand that that war between their soul self and their conscious ego self can be
Mm-hmm.
stopped. And there is a way forward. And there is a way they can serve the world just as they are. And the easiest or the most straightforward way, without relying on any medical assistance or drugs, is
Mm-hmm.
to unlock the highest level of your mind that most people never tap into. Because we don't just have the soul and the mind, we also have this divine mind in us as well. But in most people, it's dormant, it's never activated. But we can if we want to activate it. And what happens then? Everything transforms, and you start seeing the world from a higher perspective. It's similar to, imagine if you're walking and you are looking for a place, and say that place is where you want to go. That's your purpose, right? So you keep walking and they're just like endless roads and endless forests and endless landscapes, and you feel lost. Now imagine if you had wings and you could soar over that landscape. You could see that place straight away, right? Because you're so higher up. This is
Mm-hmm.
what your God state does for you.
So, did somebody help you get out of that space and teach you these things, or did you find it within yourself?
I had to do it myself. I
Yeah,
always wished there was someone who would help me just as I'm helping other people right now,
right.
but I wasn't lucky enough to meet someone like that.
So tell me that process. You're there, you're feeling depressed, you're feeling down, has a lot of probably negative self-talk, unlike where you are now. What was that journey like from the deepest of the depression out of it?
Right. Well, for me specifically, it was about my sense of duty. This is because in most of my previous lifetimes, I was either a monk or a warrior. And so, if you're a warrior for hundreds of years, you get so much discipline drilled into you and so much sense of duty above feelings or above your, say, personal petty considerations that over time, it just becomes your nature. And so, my journey was, I remember in my darkest moment, and I felt really like not wanting to continue this life at all. And then I looked at my mind chatting about this, and I thought to myself, right, so what about your duty then? You have the knowledge that so many people need in this world, and you can help them. So if you're gone, nobody is going to replace you because I have a very unique set of skills and experiences, like all of us. But I mean, it gets, I would say, more it gets an additional depth as you go through different lifetimes because instead of forgetting your lessons, you actually build on them. And so that wealth of experience becomes a lot more multifaceted. And so for me, I thought, right, so you've got all this potential, you've got all these tools, all this knowledge to help other people. And I pulled many people actually from the verge of suicide. So many of my students came to me saying, thank you, you saved my life. And I mean it, which was very humbling to hear every time. And I
Right.
thought about it and I
Because
thought,
that's the
right,
opposite of suicide is your sole purpose, right? If you know your sole purpose, you wouldn't, be in that place.
no, our sole purpose is to grow in whichever way
Mhm.
possible.
Yeah.
So for us, so I thought, right, well, I need to pull myself together, and perhaps the conditions of my life are not exactly what I would prefer them to be, but nonetheless, I can still fight. And
Mhm.
so I thought, right. And from that point on, I thought, and by the way, there is no point wasting your energy on thoughts like that at all. It's pointless. So devote all your energy on growing, teaching, learning, and
Mhm.
growing your business. So that was my guiding star.
Yeah. I love it. I really love that you're bringing in the soul and that we exist and we exist forever. And there's so many complexities to that
Yes.
that many Western cultures just don't even acknowledge. So thank you so much for your work. Tell us just
It's my
how
pleasure.
to find you, and we'll, reinforce that in the description as well.
Thank you. Well, my social media and my Instagram is New Era Superhero, because that's what I do. I train
Yes.
superheroes and I change lives. So if you message me on Instagram saying strong mind, I'm going to send you my newest book, The Superhero's Journey, and also the technique that I shared with you today on this podcast.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you too.